I would really just so appreciate hearing both what department you're coming to this from and how you found out about this. It's just kind of really useful for us to learn how word is getting out, since as you can imagine, we're just sort of, it feels sometimes maniacally, pushing the word out and then trying to figure out how people hear about it. So I'll pause and say that my name is Jennifer New. I am the Associate Director of the Obermann Center. And for the past 3 summers, my role within the Humanities for the Public Good grant has been to organize and then oversee the internship program. And we've actually gone up every summer. We started with 8, last summer we had 9, and this summer we have 10 opportunities. So that is my very brief hello, and then I'll be telling you much more about the internships as we go. But maybe our other 2 HPG folks here could introduce yourselves to start with. Do you want to go first, Laura?
Sure. Hello, I'm Laura Perry. I'm a postdoctoral fellow with the Humanities for the Public Good, which is where these internships are based out of. And Ebenezer, it's good to see you, because Ashley and I were also the co-directors of this year's Graduate Institute on Engagement in the Academy. And yeah, that's me, unless there's anything else I should say, Jennifer.
No, that's cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Ashley.
And yeah, so hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Ashley Chamey McNeil, and I am also, along with Laura, a postdoctoral fellow at the Obermann Center, working on the Humanities for the Public Good grant. And just thrilled to be here to, as I said briefly before, more personally to Jennifer, but just like be in your orbit, because this work is so outstanding and these opportunities are unique and in like the most true way possible. And so just love to be able to support this summer internship program in any way that we can from the work that we do on our side of the grant.
Nice, thank you. And then Delissa, and then Cassie, and then we'll go into the bigger group.
Yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Delissa Edinburgh. I'm a doctoral candidate in the College of Education, and over the last summer I was a HPG intern, and my placement site was the Center for Afrofuturist Studies.
Which I'll say is under the umbrella of Public Space One.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, thanks. And Cassie.
I'm Kathy Barron. I am a PhD student in the English department, and last summer I interned at the Labor Center. We're kicking off their Women in the Trades network, which was stellar. Happy to talk about it if any of you are interested in that one specifically as well.
Okay, and I'm gonna at some point here, Delissa and Cassie, just ask both of you to kind of reflect on your experiences last summer. So we will get to that. But again, if just names and departments and how you heard, and I'll just go from the order you're on my screen. So Arlo.
Hi, I'm Arlo, philosophy, and Professor Cunning sent an email. So that's how I found out about it.
Great, thank you. Pranav.
Hi, I am Pranav. I'm doing an MFA at the Center for the Book. I also defended my dissertation in religious studies last spring. And I subscribed to Graduate College's newsletter. That's how I got to know about this event.
Okay, wonderful, thanks. And it's good to see you again. Emily.
Yeah, hi. I'm Emily. I'm also in the philosophy graduate program and also got an email from Professor Cunning.
We're giving gold stars to Professor Cunning today. Ebenezer.
Yeah, I'm Ebenezer Adeyemi. I'm a second year PhD student in the Department of Anthropology. So I think the first time I heard about this opportunity was during the Graduate Institute for Engagement and the Academy that we had in January, which I was privileged to be a fellow. and I've been getting a lot of emails. I think I still got an email from Dr. Ashley or Dr. Laura, I can't remember who sent the email, trying to sort of introduce this concept again. Yeah, it's interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good to have you here. Tyler Snelling.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm in the Communication Studies department and I do rhetoric stuff. I heard about this from my friend Andrew Bogey, who suggested I look into it.
Great, nice. And I'm really enjoying that like partial wall of images behind you, I gotta say. Hassan.
Yes, I'm also from Religious Studies Department, first year PhD. I got an email from the department. That's where I just find.
All right, great, thank you. Suraj.
Hi, my name is Suraj, and I'm also from the philosophy department. And I got to hear about this from the director of our graduate studies, Professor Ali Hassan. And I think the other two students also heard from Professor Ali Hassan, but maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, I got to hear from the director of grad studies. Yeah, thanks.
Nice, great, thank you so much. Jasmine, or Yasmin, I'm sorry, I don't know which.
Jasmine. Hi, my name is Jasmine Msuya, a first year PhD student in Anthropology department. And last year I worked as a Fulbright teaching assistant in Division of World Language and Literature. So I got the email from the department.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Kaden.
Yeah, I'm a PhD student in the English department. And I got an email from someone, possibly multiple people, I don't recall.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Mariana, so good to see you.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Mariana. I'm from the Spanish department, and I got a couple of emails from the NIS filios.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Jin Chang.
You caught me right. I was eating.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm a first year PhD student in the Schools Culture Society program. I heard about this from Dr. Honig Moore about 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay, great, great. So I'm sorry, is that in the College of Ed?
No, she's in history.
She's in history, but are you in the College of Ed?
I'm in the College of Ed School Culture Society program.
Got it. Okay. Okay, nice. Got it. Thank you very much. And then John.
Hi, I'm John Yost. I am in the PhD program in history. And I also received Professor Heineke Moore's email about 30 to 60 minutes ago.
Okay.
So I thought I'd check it out.
Nice, thank you. And then the last person I have on my screen is Bronwyn.
Hi, English PhD, and I got the email from several people, and I know a few people who've been in the fellowship before.
Nice, okay. Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's helpful to me. So I wanted to spend more time talking about the internship program as a whole, and I'm not going to go into much detail on the specific internships because I can, trust that we can all read those, but I will be happy to take any questions that you have about them. What I would like to start by saying is that all the previous 2 summers, the groups that we've worked with have been really wonderful in terms of, on one hand, working with me ahead of time to come up with a project and, kind of an area that they want the intern to work with them around. But at the same time, being very flexible to wait and see what that person's skills are and what their interests are. And so in the first week of the internship, the task at hand is to come up with a work plan for the summer. And I mean, it's only 8 weeks. It goes by in a total flash. I think both Cassie and Delissa can attest to. But when you're sitting there at the very beginning of that 8 weeks and you're like, okay, what am I going to do? It can feel a little more daunting. And so we want you to work together to say, okay, so you, site, this was what you were wanting somebody to do. Is that still the case? Last summer, given that when between the time we wrote these and the time that people were working, this thing called COVID occurred. And so some of them got very drastically changed. Many of them stayed in the same lane, but they may be, you know, kind of repositioned. So that's kind of the first week. And everybody wants you to have an experience where on one hand, you are learning and being challenged, but on the other hand, that you are truly bringing your top skills to the table, and that they get to, you know, I don't want to say take advantage of that, but you know, that they get to reap the rewards of working with you. So one example of that would be that last summer, Laura Hayes, who's in English, so a few of you might know, was with the National Czech and Slovak Museum. And she was doing some educational programming, but a few things happened. One is they, for financial reasons due to COVID, they lost a staff member, and they were suddenly very understaffed and needed help in ways that they had not previously foreseen. And then secondly, as everything went online and they were dealing with offering online programming, they were able to utilize some of Laura's skills as somebody who has a deep experience around movement. And she actually offered some movement workshops via Zoom. And so that's just an example of something that came about, you know, kind of in the moment and in the situation, and spoke both to their needs and to her talents. So I say that because I know it's very easy to look at these descriptions that are on the website and start maybe trying to drill down and want it to be more and more and more specific. But I would encourage you to go to sort of embrace the unspecificity and know that this will be an opportunity for you and the partner to come together and find where your interests and skills meet. I think from that, it would be interesting to hear from both Cassie and Delissa about if you could both respond to the question of what you sort of got out of this, especially that maybe you were surprised that you got out of it, and why you would particularly encourage somebody else to consider this opportunity. So if either of you wants to start and just give us a very brief overview about what you did, I think that would be wonderful.
I mean, I can go ahead.
Cassie or yeah. Delissa, thank you.
Yeah. So as an intern at the Center for Afrofuturist Studies, which is under the wider art organization Public Space One, my responsibilities, I would describe them as wide. Some of the things I helped with was the planning of their website, managing social media pages, working with partners to sort of launch or carry out programs. And in addition, just being a part of the team, I think that was also a very important part, positioning myself within the team, getting to know everyone and explaining who I am and what I'm about. But that was very easy because the cast team was extremely welcoming. I would encourage anyone to be a part of this opportunity because I think I learned a lot from it, and that's a very broad statement that has a lot of layers. At a time when I applied for it, I was just starting to think broadly about what I wanted to do after graduating or after finishing my dissertation. And part of that was thinking about how my skills can be applied not only within academia, but within places outside of academia. And so I saw the opportunity, and it sort of meshed with the moment I was in my life at the point. And I learned a lot from it. I think it made me a lot more aware of the skills that I have and how the skills that I have can be translated to various places or to new places. I learned how the writing skills, communication skills, capacity to serve as a leader in different projects that I sort of built, or I did build throughout my graduate career, could sort of function successfully at the CAS. In addition to that, for me, last year was just a very interesting moment for a lot of reasons and for multiple reasons. But I think the racial and social climate sort of positioned me in a frame of mind of how I could not only work within academia or work through my research to realize the change or to work towards the change I would like to see, but how I can work within my wider community. And I think the CAS has exposed me to people in Iowa City, people nationally, people globally who are doing like really important work, not only involving art, but education and politics to sort of push places in new directions. So that was very important to me. I think I'll stop with that one question and let Cassie sort of jump in with the next.
And one thing I would also add is that Delissa has continued to work with CAS as in a volunteer capacity.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's a few of our interns from the 2 summers who have continued to work with their sites in different ways. And so I think the way, and that you just touched on this, that it really, you make deep connections, and it also just expands your sense of this area, where you are living and calling home for right now. And so I think that has been an exciting and kind of unexpected outcome for some of the interns. Thank you, Delissa.
So my job this past summer was to kick off the Labor Center's new Women in the Trades network, which is a social community network that provides resources for women who are either already working in the skilled trades or thinking about going into the trades and how to get into them, how to find support once you're there. So a lot of what I was doing, which was not necessarily what we thought was going to be happening at the beginning, was graphic design, which was entirely outside my wheelhouse, creating Facebook pages, making flyers, and then doing a lot of cold calling for people who are already either in contact with the Labor Center or reaching out to unions to get them in touch with if they have a women's group already, to see if people might be interested, and then setting up our first Zoom Women in the Trades Network meeting, which was incredibly successful, and it was amazing to see it come together. And I'm very excited that they're going to have another intern working on it, because I feel like I didn't get as much done as I would have liked, but pretty limited in your 8 weeks, and also not being able to leave your house. How it applied to me and how it's like directly mapped onto my English research. So I finished my comps the day before the internship started. I passed my comps. And then I work on 19th century literature and started focusing more specifically on women's work in 19th century literature. And by the time I came out the other end of this internship, I was very narrowly focused on women's factory work in New England in the 19th century, in the 1840s and 50s. So it was really, really great for me as a research focus, but also to see that my research still has applications today and still has meaning for women working today, which was very, very exciting to me. So obviously always happy to talk about the Labor Center and happy to talk about this group.
Thank you, Cassie. And that kind of touches on something that is we're saying is that in a number of cases with the internships, we have had people whose work just, you know, beautifully aligns to what they're doing. And sometimes they go in and that's very obvious. Sometimes they go in and it's maybe, and then it becomes more so. And some of those folks have, you know, tuned up, you know, kind of tightened up their dissertation, or, you know, kind of what they're thinking of next. And at the same time, there have been people whose what they're doing doesn't seemingly relate, you know, to their dissertation at all. And they come out with as though they took like a breath mint for their brain, you know, and they're just like, oh my God, I'm just, you know, I feel so like ready to go back and do this other thing. Cause I spent the summer with my brain just being in a more playful mode. And I think they're both great. They're both wonderful. So don't worry if you feel like you're on, you know, one end than the other. So thank you both, Cassie and Delissa, and I'm sure that both would answer more questions when we get a little more into this. So let me just go on to the screen for, let's see here, for the, all right. So some of you have probably visited this page already, and some of you who got emails a half hour ago might not have. But this is in the UI Humanities for the Public Good.com, and then it's the first heading under interns. And so everything that you need to know about this summer's internships appear on this page. As this states, the internships are 8 weeks long. They're planned for basically June and July. So we'll start at the very beginning of June and then go through until the second to last week in July. And that's 8 weeks. During that time, you'll be expected to work 30 hours a week. So it really doesn't work to have any other kind of appointment or to be doing some other major training or something. This needs to be your primary focus during the work day. Within those 30 hours, there is the majority of that time by far is spent focused on your site and your work there. But there are also some commitments to Humanities for the Public Good. We will be meeting as a cohort. And so we'll meet every week, usually at the same time, based on what works for everybody's schedule. And we'll just take like an hour each week to check in with each other. It's a good opportunity for the interns to get to know each other and also to be able to, to say like, hey, this is happening to me. And then to have 3 other people go, me too, like is, very reassuring. Also during those 30 hours and during some of those meetings, we'll be focusing on some kind of professionalizing skills. You'll be required to do 2 blog posts that help to share the work that you're doing with a broader audience. And you'll also do a series of informational interviews that will help you connect to people in areas that you might consider working in beyond your immediate academic area. I think that sort of cold calling skill and becoming more and more comfortable with just picking up the phone, writing an email, and reaching out to anybody is one of the real benefits of this program, from what I've heard from many of the students who've been through it. Within the eligibility, it's being enrolled in a PhD program, either in the humanities or in a humanities, what we term kind of adjacent area. And I think everybody who is in this call fits that. The compensation is $5,000 for the interns. And I think it's also important that the interns realize that their community partner is being paid. So they receive $3,000 for the mentoring. We've had wonderful, wonderful experiences with all of the sites we've worked with thus far. But sometimes, maybe they're overwhelmed. There's, certainly there's plenty to overwhelm one in the world right now. Or they're new to doing this and they're not clear. And so I think it kind of helps from the intern's point of view to feel like a little braver and maybe be like, hey, I actually need to meet with you every single week. And to know that they're getting paid, I think can kind of help to, feel a little more confident to do that. Within this area around COVID, so this is very much a fluid statement. We are certainly going to work within whatever parameters from the university, though this is a unique program as far as being an internship, kind of an experiential internship for graduate students. And so we're often kind of out there trying to define things for ourselves a little bit. But we certainly want everybody to be safe, to feel safe. That said, when last summer came around, the university had gone completely online, whereas now folks are actually in, classrooms and so on with each other. And we know so much more about COVID that we do hope that some of the sites, particularly that have some outdoor possibilities to them, that will be able to occur. So just know that, again, this is fluid, but that is how we're interpreting things right now. Within the application, a few things I will note. First of all, you'll be asked to choose 2 sites that you would want to work at, or actually 2 opportunities, but they need to be at 2 different sites because a few of them have 2 opportunities. So you couldn't apply for both at the Labor Center, for example. You have to apply for one at one place and one at another place. Within the Humanities for the Public Good team then reads those, and we forward 2 applications apiece for each position to the sites. The sites then read the application, get in touch with those 2 people and do interviews, which I assume will be over Zoom. Additionally, within that application, you don't have to get a letter, but you do have to put down recommendations. And chances are good that the site will reach out to at least one of those people who you've identified for a recommendation. And then finally, there is some we give you language. I think it's 1 or 2 sentences that your DGS has to sign off on and send to us. So if you see that and you're like, does the DGS actually have to write more than this or write a letter? It's like, no, just that statement. It's simply saying that you are in good standing and they give their approval to you participating should you get in. So the applications are due February 19th, and we try that's a Friday, and we try by sometime mid to late that following week to have them to the sites. And then we give them 2 weeks to set up their interviews. So sometime in early March, we hope that we would have decisions because we understand that people are eager to know what their summer looks like. I will just very briefly go through these. And then again, if you have, more specific questions that you want to either stay later or ask me more about, and each of these goes into more detail if you click on them. So this will be the 3rd summer that we've worked with Iowa Valley Resource Conservation and Development. They're a wonderful group, and part of what they do is around food systems. And so supporting the food system growth in our area. And they work a lot with fairly recent immigrants to this area. And so they're looking for somebody who will, whether in kind of a written booklet form or in a podcast or in a short film, again, they're flexible, help tell those stories. With the National Czech and Slovak Museum, it's interesting because there's some nice overlap among a few of these, and these first two are among them. This is working with their education team and building some educational programming that is specifically around their heritage. Rapids, one thing I'll note is that we do give money for mileage. So if you are going to a site where you're driving, you just track that at the end of every week, you send in your miles and you get reimbursed. So again, with kind of things under COVID that we're not probably looking at as many miles, but particularly the first summer of this, we had interns log a lot of miles. Somebody actually noted that improving her driving was among the best of having participated. So within this program at the National Czech and Slovak Museum, it's developing some educational programming, actually overseeing a high school student who's tending to the garden, meeting with them and some local partners they have, including the city of Cedar Rapids, about food insecurity. And some of the programming is about both recent and historic immigrant food production in Eastern Iowa. Public Space One, which Delissa worked with last summer with the Center for Afrofuturist Studies, but this summer they're focusing on a different of their kind of projects, which is their media arts co-op. And a few years ago, Public Space One inherited both the equipment of and the archives of public access TV, local public access TV. They have 40 years worth of recordings. And so they are looking for somebody who can help them figure out what to do with these, how to archive them, and then interesting programming around all of this archival footage. Hampshire is probably the one that is most up in the air, simply because as a large performing arts center, what is going to be possible next year remains, very nebulous. But one way or another, this person will be working with Micah Ariel James and her team, who are their community engagement outreach education team, to think about what programming to offer and how best to connect with people, whether again it's in person or on in this format with whatever Hampshire is doing. Hampshire is in some ways like the most corporate, if you've ever truly worked in a corporate job, it's not corporate at all, but it's a brand new building. It just has a different kind of gloss to it than say working at PS1. And that said, Micah she's a playwright. She is a wonderful teacher and just a very kind person. So I give big props to working there. The UI Labor Center, we worked with them for the first time last summer and just so enjoyed working with both Jen Scher, who's the director, and John McCurley, who oversees their oral history project. And both of these two projects got off the ground last summer with Cassie and then Michael Goldberg. And so this is really continuing work that you would have had other students whose kind of shoulders you're standing on, and also two people who will happily talk to you and help pass the baton. This is a brand new opportunity with the Iowa City Area Development Group. So they are a 501c6, which I have to admit I had not heard of before. And so ICAD is right downtown on the Ped Mall near the fountain and across from the Graduate Hotel. They have a co-working space in their main area, and they use that space for a lot of public events. So you may have even been there before. And they're spearheading a very multi-institutional economic relief effort in terms of like economic relief from COVID and the hit that the community has taken. And it's this project Better Together. It has a series of goals and areas of focus. And one of those is helping BIPOC owned businesses to tell their stories. And that was a request that came directly from those business owners. And so again, they're looking for somebody with some storytelling experience. They're very open to what form those stories occur in. And they would also be happy to have some historic stories told as well. So maybe businesses that aren't around anymore, but have been. And then again, they have a number of projects that are under this Project Better Together umbrella. And so this person might be jumping in and helping out with some of those as well. This is probably the project that could entail the most driving. So the Mosqua Food Sovereignty Initiative is under the umbrella of the Mosqua Nation and in Tama, Iowa. And they have moved within their placement within the tribal government, and also the person who is directing this program is new to the program. And so they're kind of at this change point of really wanting to review where have they been. They have good records that show kind of what were some past goals of this. And they would like to note how those both have and have not been met, and then help with creating some documentation about where they want to head in the future. And then sort of interestingly, parallel to that, they would like the person doing this to be thinking with them about how a non-Mosqua person is coming in and working with them in a way where they are building communication and trust, and helping to actually put some of that down for future partners. And so it's kind of an exciting opportunity in that it has these two kind of different aspects to it. And they also really want this person to come and spend some time working there in their farm. Shelley Buffalo, who is the site intern, keeps calling it a garden. And when I've gotten her to describe to me how big it is, I'm like, no, that is a farm. So you can, I don't know what you will end up calling it, but they want somebody there to spend some time really seeing what is happening on the site. So that's an important part of that one. And then finally, we're also working for the first time with UI Libraries Special Collections. And there's two possibilities there. The first internship is the journalist Tom Brokaw, who is a UI graduate, gave his papers to the University of Iowa a few years ago. And one of the more interesting pieces in terms of visuals is the collection of pretty much all of his press passes for several decades. And so they want somebody to help create a digital exhibit of these that would include contextual writing about, kind of what was going on during these different events that we see the press pass. And this person will also be overseeing an undergraduate student who will be assisting with some of that writing and research. And then the other one is going to be a lot of that kind of cold calling that I talked about. So the Historical Iowa Civil Rights Network collection and archives is statewide, but is housed in the collections. And they have like a good start, but nobody has really had the capacity to reach out to much, much smaller collections and groups around the state who probably have material added to this. And so it's going to be doing that kind of outreach and collecting work. and then figuring out ways to, kind of get what those people have, to digitize it and safely get it back. And so it's a lot of relationship building. So those are the opportunities. I think what I'd like to do now is pause, because I feel like I'm just talking and talking, and take any questions that you all have. And it looks like somebody, Ashley Dorn, I did not get you earlier when we did introductions. I'm so sorry. Could you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure, no, that's no trouble. My name is Ashley Dorn. I'm in the history department. I'm a PhD student there. And I heard about this by working with ILHAP previously, and seeing the call for applications go out.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. So questions?
So I guess I'm curious if the application allows you to write answers to the 3 questions for each reference, or if you should kind of dovetail them together.
Yeah, you have to dovetail. So we have had people within that say, like, this would be my first preference, but then you do need to answer to both within the single response. You're also welcome if you have any other questions for Cassie or Delissa about their experiences.
Yeah, my question is, during the course of the presentation, I didn't get something you said. You said because it takes a lot of time, is it advisable if you are, for instance, taking summer classes, not to register for the summer internship? Maybe if you are taking summer classes with your advisor, doing some sort of rigorous independent study over the summer, do you advise, that kind of person to register, or they should just not apply for the internship?
I would actually be interested to some extent what Cassie and Delissa have, because I am not in a position of registering for classes, and by what time you would need to know. We would be able to tell you if you did or did not receive an internship by early March. Other thoughts from either of you?
I would describe the internship as being intensive. It depends on you knowing how you can handle the responsibilities of the internship in addition to what you have to do. It's not only being engaging with the responsibilities that you have to do, but it's also a learning process of, these are people you never met, so it takes some time to get used to them. So like building that into the experience. But it also depends on the individual, and just structuring your time and maybe creating a clearer guideline with when you're responsible or when your hours will be with your intern site, so you can leave time to do what you have to do. That's just one of my suggestions.
And Ebenezer, were you asking if you could do both, or if you should, or was it more a timing of the registration issue?
No, I mean, when you were talking about the requirement of the internship, what interns are going to be doing, yeah, you mentioned that it's going to be rigorous and stuff like that. So I was wondering if, for instance, if we are to take summer classes, maybe with our advisors and stuff like that, would you advise that we should go ahead with the registration, knowing that we'll be taking classes and at the same time, interning at wherever the person is interning? So do you advise that we go ahead with the registration, or we just do away with it?
Again, I would say, as far as Delissa just shared, that I think most people found that the internship alone was a fair amount of work. Now, there were people who were, somebody last summer was actually taking their comps which I know was pretty exhausting, but they did it. And so I think, there are small bits of other academic work happening at the same time, but I definitely would not overload. Yeah, go ahead.
So I had a question with regard to the kind of skill sets that you expect from the students to have while applying for the internship. So in some of the internships, I can see, like, for example, you need to be familiar with video and audio editing and stuff like that, and sort of, helping with archives and stuff. So supposing that's something that someone is interested in, but not something that a person is an expert at, and is looking for that internship as an opportunity to actually imbibe and sort of enhance those kind of skills. Do you think such kind of interns, such kind of students would be welcome for such internships, or it's basically working with the assumption that you have enhanced skills with regard to those requirements and then working from there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think if I were you, I might cut the difference in terms of the two that I, indicated I was interested in, make sure that one of them, I felt really confident that I had the skills going in. And then I think for most of these, you can go a long way on enthusiasm. And few of them are asking for a skill set that is so, kind of high in the technical acumen that you're not going to be able to learn it. And also in many cases, they have the know-how and are probably going to be happy to spend a little bit of time telling you, and or we can point you in the direction of different resources at the university to help you. But I think doing maybe one of one kind and one of the other kind would probably be the safest route. Anything else? I sure don't want to keep people if that is it.
Pranav, is that like a hand up thing in the corner of yours?
Thanks a lot, Casey. I just had a minor question with regards to the CV. You expect it to be 2 pages long. And so assuming that this is basically a way to demonstrate, one's willingness to engage in public humanities, would you recommend curtailing, say, publication record or conference participations for the purposes of this application?
Well, I would bear in mind that the primary readers of your CV, the most important readers, are going to be the partner. And so while some of these partners are within the university and will have maybe more familiarity with reading that kind of academic CV, many of them are not. And so thinking of it through their eyes as far as what is going to interest them and, feel like valuable experience. And probably that nitty gritty of, and I in no way want to undermine anybody's publications because I know how hard you all work to get those. But that I would think would probably be less substantially of interest than some other experiences. And I know in some cases it's been, some both job and volunteer experiences that people have had far outside the academy that have really interested the sites as they read these. So yeah, so just bear in mind that they are your primary readers. They're the ones, if you will.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And Jennifer, totally correct me if I'm wrong here, but I was thinking about the CV for people who might not have those outside experiences too, and their conferences presenting at a conference is public speaking, experience, and teaching gives you a lot of the same kind of experiences that many of these positions are looking for. So I suppose I'll turn this into a question, which is, would you say that for people who don't have that kind of outside volunteer experience, but have, maybe TA'd for someone or have led some workshops or have given conference presentations, that it would also be received by the partners as, necessary experience and a demonstration of skills too?
Yeah, definitely. And how you talk about that in the letter is by far the most important part, or in responding. But I think they're going in trusting that the applications we send them are going to be, pretty very capable, smart people. And so I think those answering those questions about why you want to do this are just as important, if not more important, than really polishing every last semicolon in your CV.
I've said this before, but I'm so jealous that I'm not a graduate student, because these look like amazing internships. And yeah, just really, really wish I was able to apply to these, because what a fantastic way to spend the summer working with these organizations.
Yeah, and I would just like to add to Suraj's earlier comment about if you need to have a direct alignment with your skills. I've known with the last internship, one requirement was video editing, and we described how this was new. I never did it before, but I'm willing and able and enthusiastic about learning. And I think that is very key for a lot of the opportunities. With my internship, they had me behind the scenes adding in website content on a very new website, and I had little to no skills with that, but I was willing and able, and I wanted to learn. So I think just emphasizing that this is an opportunity that you're ready to be engaged with, and learn the skills and ask the questions if you can. I mean, they're really receptive. Like, this is new to me, and I'm doing what I can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, similarly, 2 summers ago, a student had taken one class where he had some sound production in the School of Music, and he asked if he could do a podcast for one story that he was asked to produce in writing. And they said, sure, you can do a podcast instead. And, it ended up being a really, he just made a great story, and he learned so much. So I put down into, oh, thank you, Laura. I put down, but it now looks like Laura did, our report. So that it's a little and hard to find. It's on the internship page from 2020, but it doesn't have like big arrows pointing to it. So that is like the overview of everything and more that you might want to know about last summer's internship program. And I think it would probably answer a lot of questions about kind of how time was spent. There's a lot of quotes in there, both from interns and the sites, that will give you a better sense of how the kind of both the student and the site, view each other and work together. So that's probably a useful thing to look at. So again, I'm very happy to take any questions. I'll hang out here for a second, but don't hesitate to reach out to me and email. And I think any of the interns from last summer or the year before, that even if they weren't at this meeting today, you can definitely get in touch with them and ask them questions. So otherwise, I will just say thank you very much for coming, and stay warm and stay safe out there, and take care.